Hey everybody, this is the Sweat Boy once again, and I would like you to tell I would like to tell you to not be afraid to get into comics and to not be intimidated by the content the severity of the content that is out there. Yes, comics could be a big place to be, but when we all start small. But yeah, it's not for us to give up, right? It's for us to keep going deeper and deeper into whatever it is and try to figure out what's going on. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I started, and well, obviously I was a fan of all the cartoons and all the movies, I guess. That's how everyone starts. Superman. I was a big fan of Superman. How could you not escape the image of Superman in any place in the world today? Um, yes, I grew up in Sri Lanka, of course, and even like any country would. Everybody knows who Superman is. Everybody knows who Spider-Man is, or at least they know how to recognize those people. But how much do we actually know? Doesn't matter. Now see, The Flash. I was a big fan of The Flash because there was a previous TV series of The Flash with John Wesley Shipp in it, and that was my first TV series. And all I remember was the logo just going, whoosh, the yellow bolt making its flash on the screen, and I couldn't even remember the name of the TV series. My cousin did, however, and she told me that it was The Flash. So I looked up The Flash, and of course I've seen comics with Flash in it. And this is a this is Justice League era. So The Flash is around in most of these panels. You might see him. Okay, so here's a little bit of him. He's always eating. You notice a lot of that. Because he has a high metabolism. Actually, I didn't know. Okay, so this is the Flash with his teammates, Fire and Ice, and Blue Beetle in the back, and Elastic Lad over here. Well, did me. And then I was a little confused because as we go, and also let me tell you that the Flash is a really important figure in the DC universe, because here we see Green Lantern and Flash of the Brave and the Bold. Now, what is the Brave and the Bold? The Brave and the Bold is actually a cornerstone, a milestone in DC Comics, because before they made a band of heroes, before they put all these heroes together in a team, they tried it out with an old title of theirs. In the original Brave and the Bold, you had people like Robin Hood and maybe Tarzan and Thor, ancient heroes like that, King Arthur, people like that banding together to do their heroes, to have their adventures. But as far as superheroes go, as far as modern day superheroes go, the first time two of them teamed up to save the day was the buddies Flash and Green Lantern. The success of that event led to, yes, obviously, Justice League. The first Justice League had these two in it, and then it had Wonder Woman in the original one, but in later in Justice League Year 1, what you get is these two, Martian Manhunter, Green Arrow, and Black Canary, instead of Wonder Woman. And in the very first Justice League, I believe Superman and Batman were actually there, but later on it became so that Superman and Batman were not original members of the Justice League. They joined later on. These guys were pretty much the figureheads. Because Superman was popular enough to have his own title, Batman was popular enough and strong enough to do his own thing. These guys were B-leaguers, is what they call them. So, how do I know all this stuff? I had to research on my own. That's where I'm getting to. So in this comic, which has Dr. Light on the cover. Who is Dr. Light? Dr. Light is a villain that the Teen Titans used to fight on a regular basis. He was kind of like the Shredder to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. Or rather, he was like the commander, like Cobra Commander of the G.I. Joe. He was a very silly, idiotic character, but later on in Identity Crisis, they changed his character a lot, and Barry is once again very important in that story. So here we have actually in one of these Justice League comics, I find that the man inside the mask of the Flash was called Wally West, but that this happened in London, and that's actually not consistent with what we see here, because we see the Flash talking to this young boy and calling him Wally West. So if this was Wally West, the Flash that I've seen in my Justice League comics, who is this Flash? And I'm not just talking about the Earth 2 Flash here. I'm talking about two people with the same exact costume, with minor changes, of course. Their belt changes, their ear things changes. A few things change, but I'm saying there were two of these guys. And who were they? I really didn't know. So where did I have to turn? To the only place I knew would have the answer. The place that has all the answers to anything. Wikipedia, the internet. So I had to go on the internet and research for myself. That's how I learned about Crisis on Infinite Earths and what exactly happened in Crisis on Infinite Earths. At least the footnotes, at least the spark notes, the highlights of what happened in these big events. I had to learn them through Wikipedia, and then later on I got a hold of the comics that were really important to that, and then I read Identity Crisis, Crisis on Infinite Earths, and I have a few Infinite Crisis books with me right here. But so that's what I'm saying, like, we all have a stepping stone. And then I got into a really big bad argument with some guy about Daredevil, and he accused me, he pointed the finger at me and like called me off on how little I knew about Daredevil and how I shouldn't be talking about Daredevil if I didn't know the character at all. And that was, I didn't want to lose, so I just kept fighting him. But what he said was actually correct, because if I didn't know about him, I shouldn't have gotten into the argument. Okay, so let me give you the context of the argument. He said that it was a stupid idea to say, okay, Frank Miller himself said that Jason Statham, who I think is a really, he's a macho fighter dude. I thought the idea of Jason Statham as Daredevil was a really good idea. And Frank Miller himself, the man who not created Daredevil, but brought Daredevil to his current popularity. Like, if Jason Statham is good enough for Frank Miller, then why not the world? And then he said, why not? And I just didn't want to give up. I just kept on fighting. But what I should have done is actually learned about comics. Just look on Wikipedia. That's fine. That's enough. But when you talk about comics, all I'm saying is sometimes you have to know a little bit about it, because otherwise the people that you're going to talk to, if they know more about you, they're going to get annoyed. It just happens. I'm not saying, so the entire point is I'm telling you not to be afraid to start. And you are probably going to get into these situations where people are going to intimidate you, but don't give up. Keep going and start small, build yourself up, and you know, just comics are just a great thing. So